I've had agencies screw up before. But I think the key is they have to listen. And we talk about the relationship. You need to listen early. I was sending up the red flags. I'm going, guys, I'm seeing this isn't going off the rails. As a CMO, I may not have my hands in. I may not be on every single call. But if I'm in enough calls and go, hey, this isn't, there's something going terribly wrong, man, you don't get 2 months to ignore that problem.
This is You Should Talk To, a podcast for busy marketing leaders who are looking for support and tips on getting shit done. In each episode, Daniel Weiner interviews marketing leaders and discusses their experience, successes, and failures around hiring agencies. If you're interested in finding and choosing the right agency partner, then let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the You Should Talk To podcast. I am your host, your sponsor, your everything. You Should Talk To pairs brands and marketers for free with vetted agencies and or freelancers for marketing and tech needs, because finding great agencies and freelancers is a pain in the ass. Super excited today to be joined by, I'll say colleague, but more of a friend at this point, I would say, Jessica Garrett, who is CMO of Zone & Co. Jessica, thank you for joining.
Absolutely. I would agree. Friend.
Thank you. For those who don't know, what the hell is Zone & Co?
We build NetSuite applications.
Love it.
Super interesting stuff, guys.
And you are at this stage, how long into your tenure there? You're brand new for the most part.
Like 120 days.
Okay, this is great.
Something.
We're at the 120-day mark. Perfect.
Yeah, I just hit the 100-day mark, right? Isn't that the thing?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. You've survived.
I did.
Awesome. Well, we'll start with some controversy, which I ask everybody in your seat. What is a unpopular opinion you have in the marketing world, or a hot take of sorts? I'd ask you in particular as it pertains to B2B marketing. I would love to hear about.
Yeah, hot take. I would say that if you want a really good answer to a question, you know, how somebody's tackling a particular challenge or how they're thinking of a certain trend, I would go find the people that are not on LinkedIn, that are not top voices talking every day. It's the quiet ones, like almost like the introverts, to say that when I ask a question like that, like I'm sitting next to them at a conference and I'm like, whoa, that is such a good viewpoint. It's creative. It's just not something I've heard all the time. And conversely, when I sit next to somebody who maybe is a top voice on LinkedIn and I ask them the same thing, they go, yeah, we haven't really ever figured that out. Yeah, we just left it.
I find with the LinkedIn crowd too, like if one of the top, names says something, everybody just like takes it as gospel and everybody does it. And then it becomes like saturated and it stops being as effective. So like, yeah, the quiet ones who are just like doing their thing and not telling anybody their trade secrets is probably a better way to go.
Yeah, I mean, you could say maybe they're too busy, maybe it is the fact that they're introverts, but like if I have a question, those are the people I go to, not one of the top folks on LinkedIn. Not all the time, right? I don't want to generalize because clearly you are amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Good. I'm like, this podcast is over, Jessica. I post every day. Like this feel. Like, who are you talking about? I
You're
feel victimized. Yeah, that's great. No, I actually find it's funny. I was trying to like create a post about this, like without sounding like an asshole. I have so many. I post virtually every single day, and I have so many people lately, especially who comment on my posts about like something like totally different. I'll be like, the sky is blue. They're like, yeah, but the grass is green. I'm like, I literally didn't even like, and I choose not to engage because I don't want to like have like a goofy argument like for no reason, So yeah, I agree with your hot take. We should broaden our horizons versus just the people you see the most when you sign on to LinkedIn or Twitter or something.
Absolutely. I think that's why communities are more important than ever right now, right? It's like you got to find other places to go find those people, not just scrolling on LinkedIn.
I agree. In terms of your illustrious career of B2B marketing, I'm curious, tell us a little bit about the journey, and in particular, what's the biggest change or maybe non-change you've seen across B2B marketing over time?
Yeah, I have a unique journey into marketing. I knew from the time I was 11 that I would be a doctor
Oh, I thought you were going to say a CMO. I was like,
No.
what a goofy 11-year-old you were.
Well, I mean, still, I knew without a shadow of a doubt. And spoiler alert.
That sounds like a better aspiration as an 11-year-old than I knew I was going to be a CMO.
But spoiler alert, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Shows what we
You're
know
you're a
at 11.
marketing doctor.
And so I did everything in pursuit of that. I went in the military, in the Army as a combat medic. I worked in high school, in doctor's offices. My undergrad is in biology. And my junior year, I was burnt out from organic chemistry 1 and 2, physics 1 and 2, and 10 years of working in the medical field. And I said, I'm done. I am not repeating that torturous junior year, and I'm going to graduate with a degree in biology and go work in marketing. And somehow that worked out. And I think the thing is that, like, at the time, there wasn't demand gen. This is, God, almost like 20 years ago, which sounds so depressing to be able to say. But, there wasn't, we didn't have YouTube. Like, we didn't have online courses. And so it really was about, at the time, figuring out how do you take, like, foundational stuff and go apply it to this new world of digital marketing, right? Websites were brand sites at that point. PR is the big thing. Like, there wasn't this, like, email and forms and paid search, and it just wasn't quite the same. And so you had to figure out, like, how do you take the 5 Ps and go apply that to this? And my first job was a Salesforce admin. Jeez. And they gave me a binder like this, and a login on a piece of paper, and they said, go forth and prosper. And I was like, okay, what's Salesforce?
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting is then I think over the next 20 years, like, there's so much noise, there's been so many big seismic shifts and advancements. And then I think now we've come back to a place where those foundations are really, really important. And
everybody's into brand now.
Yeah, right. Everybody's back into brand.
Yeah.
But, like, I think the rigor of the foundations, looking at your 5 Ps, your messaging houses, really, really crisp on personas and ICPs, like, those foundations are really, really critical because it's so noisy. And understanding what really drives differentiation is, I think, really important now. So it's kind of, I feel like in some ways we kind of come back full circle. And I think it's interesting how many articles there are out there about, like, foundational marketing things and applying those now, in spite of the noise, in spite of the emails and the ads and the tech.
I think it's interesting too, because all I think about as it pertains to what I do, but oftentimes when I'm talking to marketing leaders, like, to help with their agency stuff, is the foundational stuff. There's so many, like, crazy tactics of demand gen and all these different things. But at the end of the day, like, if you just talk to your customer and, like,
right.
stay close to them, like, not that all of the other things don't matter, everything probably matters, but, like, the foundational stuff is often, like, the lowest barrier of entry and easiest way to, like, figure out what's going on.
I just interviewed a customer marketer, and the final step is this presentation, and I don't give them a ton of direction as far as format and, like, content. This is exactly what I want to see. I give them kind of a general, like, prompt, and I say, how would you approach this? And this person did such a good job of going to the basics, talking about interviewing customers, talking about identifying who are my personas. Like, super unusual for a customer marketing person to think that way. And to present that in an interview told me she's really understanding, really, really at a deep level, like, the motivations of her customers. And she's going to be really tied into that when she then goes to do all the usual tactics.
That's great. Mm-hmm. You may have already answered this question just now with getting back to basics, but I'm curious, what is your best piece of advice for other folks who are in your seat as, mm-hmm. CMO, VP of marketing, somebody leading a marketing organization? What do you tell them in 2024 of how to, as you said, go on and prosper?
I think the best thing we can do right now is hire the absolute smartest, best people we can who are not just excellent at the work, but are really creative thinkers. Because I think you don't bet on the tactics anymore. You bet on people. You always have, right? You always bet on people. But there is such a plethora of really good people on the market. And this is the time. Like, this is the time you can staff an amazing team and just get so many killer, like, A players on there. 2024 is a really awesome year to do. I just did that. I have 10 people on my team, I think, right now, and 7 are brand new. And so I've just gone through this, like, a whole lot of hiring, and man, the talent is so good out there. It's been really, really competitive. And I think it's going to be a strategic advantage for any CMO.
I'm curious, since you said it sounds like, things have changed over the course of your career, but like we're back to, foundational stuff and also betting on people. One of my unpopular opinions is, you've come to my dinners where I split B2B and B2C marketers. I think it's different tactics, but I think it's all the same. And I think everybody's dealing with the same challenges, but a different flavor. Do you agree? Or do you think B2B and B2C are like, because a common thing I hear is, from B2B CMOs is, we want a B2B focused agency or a B2B focused hire who's, doesn't have B2C experience. And I hear on the flip side, like if I'm a B2C company, like if they come from B2B, like they'll never understand this. And I don't argue with CMOs mostly, but I'm usually like, if they're a good A player, like you want them regardless. I'm curious your take on B2B versus B2C and if you think it's drastically different worlds.
I don't think it's drastically different. I think, of course, there are differences, but I love hiring people who have done some amount of B2C in SaaS, like hiring them for a SaaS role.
Sure.
I think, if you can understand, the like B2C branding, right? Like B2C brands, B2C companies do brand so much better than most B2B companies. So somebody who has experience with that, who has experience like, talking to, Joe Schmo from, Little Rock, Arkansas on
shout out Little Rock,
who comments on your social, and you're the social media coordinator and you're getting all his posts and his little comments, like having those interfaces and understanding B2C and like what's done really, really well in B2C and being able to bring those lessons over into B2B where maybe we're a little weaker. We focus on, different elements traditionally. And so I love hiring people who have had B2C experience in B2B.
I love it. I agree. My favorite question to ask, I think I already know the answer from you as well, since we talk pretty frequently, but VPs and CMOs especially that I work with are getting hit up every 4 seconds, especially on LinkedIn, email, text. Well, I mean, literally everywhere. I'm curious if if this is the case for you.
Always.
And now, since you gave your best advice to CMOs, I always ask like a PSA of sorts. If there's agencies or vendors who I wouldn't say want to work with you, because I presume everybody wants your money at this point, but if they think they have a solution that is a good fit for you, like what's the note? My advice is usually just chill out, like relax a little bit.
Love that.
But most I think agencies have this view that you're just sitting at your desk with like a pile of money, like throwing out hundreds of checks to different solutions all day. But I'm curious your opinion of all that.
I think they need to focus on their current customers first. And I say that for a couple reasons. One is that we are the referrers of all business. Like, not all business, but we are the referrers nowadays.
You're pretty good at that.
Communities that we are in and the conferences I sit next to, we get asked every day. There are multiple asks. I think I'm in like 10 Slack communities. And we get asked every single day, hey guys, who do you recommend for an agency focused in fill in the blank? Sometimes they'll put like, hey, I have this kind of a budget, or hey, I'm looking for this flavor of agency. People chime in with who they recommend, and people chime in with who they don't recommend. And so if you think you have a solution that's really good for Jessica Garrett, it's probably really good for maybe let's call all fintech CMOs and SaaS. So go talk to your current customers. Go get them to be your advocates, which, by the way, means that you have to pay attention to your current customers and build a really good relationship with them. Deliver results, of course, but like, I need to know who you are besides the first time that, besides initially when I'm signing the contract.
Yeah, that's like the secret to You Should Talk To. That's not really a secret of like building actual relationships versus transactional ones. But yeah, I find in general, like that's why so much of the stuff that I talk about in post, like I've had people be like, oh, you like shouldn't give away your sauce. I'm like, I don't really care because nobody's like willing to do it. People are not willing to play the long game. I find agencies are a little too thirsty often. And I feel for the agency and the plight of an agency biz dev person, because they're usually you can't afford to build a 2-year relationship, whereas I can, right? Like if you're at an agency and you're not getting results and pipeline and leads and stuff, somebody's probably saying, why is that person employed here, right? But that's just not that's why like in particular try to not work with agencies who have like full-on sales teams. Like if an agency has like a bunch of SDRs like dialing for dollars and stuff, respect it, power to them. I think it misaligns expectations and what's good for an agency versus what's good for their client. So.
I have the same thing. A lot of times, this might be a hot take, but a lot of times I won't work with a company who's like top tier HubSpot partner.
Me neither. Love it.
Because they are buying that. They're buying their way into it. I don't know how many times I've worked with a HubSpot partner, particularly 1 or 2, that would try to sell me stuff at the end of the year when they're getting ready to get their certification.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, buy more HubSpot and we'll give this to you for free and et cetera. And so it's kind of become a warning sign. And so now I go, yeah, no, they're plastering HubSpot, platinum, whatever the top tier is, all over their website. I'm out.
No, I love it. I totally agree as well. Mm-hmm. I've seen a big shift, especially since COVID, of especially bigger brands, but all brands, I would say, moving towards smaller independent agencies, specialized in like 1 to 2 things, which is accurate for our scenario. You hired a specific demand gen agency, specific brand agency, and a specific content agency. I'm guessing you agree based on that, but I'm curious, like, why in your mind is it better to, specialize versus, full service in this snenario?
I mean, when you think about it from even like software, I don't want a software platinum that's trying to be all the things. They became popular because they were really good at one thing, and then they start back, either building or acquiring other functionality. They start adding it on, and those things aren't really all that great, but they want to be all the things, and they want to sell me a $100,000 package, and I really just wanted the $20,000 thing.
Yep.
And so I think the same thing with agencies. Like, I don't have time for a mediocre white paper. I need excellent. I need excellent everything. And so I want somebody who is absolutely kick-ass at content marketing. I can trust you. You can serve as my like right arm, and you'll be able to shepherd more of the process where I'm not having to get in and provide every level of edits and every level of guidance and why I could have written the damn thing myself. I need people who can do excellent work, and I love to get somebody who's like just 1 or 2 things and just does them really, really well. I don't mind having 5 agencies. I think I do. Like, that's fine. Like, because then I have experts. Like, what more could you want than an entire team if you've hired really good people and really good agencies? Because that is your team. And my org structure, my org chart that I show to the board has people, agencies, and AI on it. That's all the people doing the work. I want that. So you have nothing better than excellent, like absolute top tier talent across the board. Man, that's good. That's how you win.
I love it. I think that's a good lead into, I'd love to hear the origin story for everybody of how we started working together at your former role. Believe I got a text that said something along the lines of, I think I know what you do. I know I need an agency. I'm in a very bad situation. We talked 12 seconds later. I made some intros, but talk us through that without naming names. What was going on, and what kind of led you to like, holy shit, like I need some help with vetting some agencies?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like hiring is one of the hardest things you do. Hiring agencies is the same.
I agree. I think that's also, not to interrupt, like people think like, oh, like it's easy for me. I'm like, no, it's hard to find great. Like I struggle sometimes to find what I'm looking for as well. So
like, you might be lucky to stumble into like one. Yeah. But if you really want like absolute top tier, excellent, that's hard. So I had a project, HubSpot agency, but I won't name names. That was this one might be the genesis of some of my angst around that. Okay. But it was a website, and they absolutely bombed on the project. So I had been raising concerns for 2 months, getting in front of leaders. They didn't fix it. They admitted it was their fault. They fired somebody on their team. They said, oh, it's this guy's fault. And then they said, here's a bill for us to fix it. 100 hours, kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not fixing this. You just admitted it's your fault. And then we progressed to, okay, fine. The website was actually completely unusable. The way they built the underpinnings was completely unusable. And so they said, well, we'd have to start from scratch and it was going to be another 6 months. And I was like, I don't have 6 months for that.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I've already gone and to my CEO and said, doing a new website, which, by the way, if I was a new CMO, is not the thing you always want to do.
Right.
So I'm like, this is my reputation on the line, my job on the line. I'm not going to take another 6 months to build a new website. And they said, well, too bad. You're paying for it anyways. We're holding you to the contract. You can't. We don't care. And so I think for me, the experience is look, some agencies are going to make mistakes. They're humans, just like us. The agencies that are able to be in the boat with you, can recognize or this is a business, but recognize when they made those mistakes, they acknowledge it, and then they fix it, right? When you can't fix it, and then you put the relationship, you just set fire to the relationship and this basically, I don't care, sue us if you want.
It sets fire to that relationship and every CMO relationship you have as well.
So and that's the thing, exactly, because everybody asks, and this unnamed agency, there absolutely have been questions in communities. There's been questions people have directed. What do you think my answer is going to be? Right? I'm not on their reference list for a reason. And so I think that's the sad thing. And I've had agencies screw up before. But I think the key is they have to listen. And we talk about the relationship. You need to listen early. I was sending up the red flags. I'm going, guys, I'm seeing this isn't going off the rails. As a CMO, I may not have my hands in, I may not be on every single call, but if I'm in enough calls and go, hey, this isn't, there's something going terribly wrong, man, you don't get 2 months to ignore that problem.
I totally agree. It's interesting you said. I had recently an agency I set up with a brand. There was some sort of miscommunication on the front end about the work, and the report that came back wasn't bad. It was just not the information that the brand wanted. The brand called me like, hey, what do you think I should do? I was like, I think you should tell them. And they fell on the sword. Not only immediately, they reached out to me to say hey, just FYI, we misunderstood, we missed, we're going to make this right and not charge them, of course. It was a $15,000 thing, hypothetically. And yeah, there wasn't even a question, will they ever work with them again? Probably. But had they not done that, yeah, just the whole, that's why I can't stress enough the value of long-term. I found it very, very early on, and you should talk. I was like, where are all these leads coming from? I was like, I get a lot of referrals from CMOs that I've helped and done right by, which is why helping you with so much stuff terrifies me sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, please do a good job. It's true. You have to make it right. And again, there are certain things where I'm usually on. There are plenty of times where an agency will be like, oh, this came up, and I'm like, yeah, it's totally valid for you to want to bill more, or in my opinion, both sides missed, and you meet in the middle and stuff like that. And there's plenty of times where brands yeah, we know we messed up too. Yeah. There are also plenty of times where I'm like, you're gonna fix this, right? And they're like, yeah, of course, So yeah, it's wild.
And no, look, I think there's lots of things that go into that. You have to make sure you scope stuff in the beginning the right way and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, you do have to recognize when you aren't listening, and you just to be cognizant of the relationship, because I guarantee you that $15,000 that they gave saved them probably hundreds of thousands in non-existent business they would have got, that they would have lost and never known. Because it's happening CMO to CMO. Yeah,
also CMOs I find and marketers like talking shit more than they like praising. I'm being serious.
I mean,
we all do, not just CMOs. As humans, we like to complain more than we like to arbitrarily provide praise. You're going to hear more about the bad proactively than you are about the good proactively until somebody prompts you. But people love talking about their bad experiences.
I've back-channeled every single agency I've ever hired, even once through you, right? And people are always willing to get on a call. Like, I'll search my Slack communities for the agency's name. I'll reach out to individuals, and they'll jump on a call with me. They'll tell me about their experience. I've never had anybody not get back to me when I ask for, hey, how was your experience with XYZ agency? I'm thinking of hiring them. And so those I think it is long-term thinking, because it isn't just about my individual contract. It's about all the other CMOs I'm talking to.
I think that's great as long as you chat. The only issue I see often with communities and Slack channels is I'll see somebody post like, hey, I'm looking for an agency to build a website. And 10 people will reply, oh, like these guys, they're the best. And nobody asks a single question. Yeah. It not only wastes times, but conversely, I'll see like, oh, don't work with these people, and I kind of take the opinion, even the agency you're talking about, like a clear miss, they messed up, that situation sucks. Hypothetically, they're an okay agency for somebody else. Maybe they've learned from their lesson and now they're the best agency on the planet, right? So like, I think people also sometimes, it's great that you chat. I see some people see, oh, don't work with so-and-so. They don't ask for any context. And they're like, yeah, like we'll never talk to them or give them a chance or something like that. Conversely, I see like, oh, we worked with so-and-so. They were awesome. Nobody asked a question. Like, great, I'll work with them, And I can eyeball some of these and know like, you're going to waste your time talking to those four for budget. Like they're not even in your tech stack, like different things like that. So I think it's important to take like the community stuff with a little bit of a grain of salt, unless you take it the step further, which it sounds like you do, of like, hey, I'd actually like to like hear. Because you may hear something from a CMO where you're like, that sounds like that was your fault. Like,
yeah. Well, and so what's happened? Because I've literally done that. I've done this recently. Somebody said that they didn't have a great experience with an agency, and I asked why, and a couple people were like, oh, well, I didn't use them for website work, for example. I use them for brand stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not trying to use them for brand stuff. So
yeah.
Cool. So context is important, and I think that's the point about, I kind of look at those things as like starting places, or as not anymore, used to, but I'll look at them as like maybe a back channel check, right? Is a place for me to go and find a little more information. I think what the danger part is like, I don't have time to call 10 agencies and go through this whole process only to find out they're way outside of my budget. They don't speak English. I don't know, like whatever all the things are. And so what I like about You Should Talk To is I will call you and just say, hey, this is my budget. This is the kind of slant I need. I would love somebody who has experience in fintech for this content that I need. Not, required. This is my timeline, so they need to have this kind of bandwidth. Like, I can give you all my requirements, and then go, here's the 3 you should talk to that, like, maybe you wouldn't have thought about. Like, this one is a relatively, new agency. This one's like more experienced, but more pricey. And then this one is like coming out from left field or coming at it from a totally different angle. Like,
yeah.
So for me, that's what I like about, you're right, because these Slack channels and stuff, that you don't have context, right? And so sometimes they'll say, I need a website that's scrappy, right? Like, scrappy, what does that mean? That's like,
low
you want
budget.
The one dude? Yeah, exactly, right?
That means we have $12 over your website.
Yeah, you want the one guy in his garage that can build your website for you, right?
That's my favorite word. People, oh, we're scrappy. I'm like, you have $6 for this project, don't you?
Yeah. In fact, I've even put that. I've outlawed that in my brand guidelines as a word we're not allowed to use. But
I appreciate that.
But yeah, so that's why I love, though. Like, it's interesting to hear those things, but going to you, and that's why I now, after having a terrible judgment and hiring the wrong agency myself.
You didn't have terrible judgment.
I'm like, oh, nope, I'm just going to go and ask Daniel and get like 3 agencies to just go. And that I know also other CMOs have had positive experiences. Because like, if you got an agency that's the third time now they've, set fire to a relationship, I don't think you're going to recommend them to me. And so that's my safety net.
Yeah, they get fired. I have a very short leash for, it's funny. There are certain things that if I hear, like if I heard somebody, if you told me like one of the agencies I sent you, like didn't get great results, it's not that I wouldn't care, but I would like ask a bunch of questions and like dive in and like want to know a ton. If you told me they were 5 minutes late to a call, I'd probably fire them.
Right.
Like if you told me, like stuff like that irks me significantly more, because that it's the cliche stuff of like effort, anybody can show effort, right? Like if you were like, oh, they just like don't seem to give a shit, I'm like, fired, straight to jail.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, that's why I joke, like results are hard, you know?
They
Like,
are hard.
if an agency doesn't get results, I don't think it makes them a bad agency right off the bat. There's too many stuff that goes into it. But yeah, like I sent them an email on Monday about something and like we didn't hear back until Thursday. Jail.
Right.
Stuff like that kills me.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that makes, I think, our jobs that much harder if we are experiencing that. One of my things for agencies, you talked about a PSA earlier, like, make it easy for me, right? Like, I want a Friday update. Give me, the slide with the report that I can go and copy and show to my CEO if I need to. Just make stuff easy. Be proactive in making this relationship that much easier for me to manage and just see the results. Like, of course I need you to deliver, but I also just need you to make it really easy for me.
I agree. What are you most excited about in the marketing space at the moment? Don't say AI. I need something else.
Well, good. I wasn't going to.
That's good.
No, I mean, for me, I think it's about bringing connection to all the experiences that we are trying to deliver. So whether that's in-person experiences, I think in-person events and things are really interesting right now. I think community is really interesting right now, and how can you do it in certain ways? Like, do you find little niches and really go deep? Customer marketing, I think, is super interesting. Again, like, how do you build a community within your customers? Like, how do you build connection in a time when we're coming off of, the demand gen era, and you've got, we've been email blasting people for 10 years, and then now we've got AI, and they're going to write all the vague things. So how do I build something that's differentiated and connected? And I think that, to me, regardless of the platform you're doing it in, I think that is super interesting.
Well, we can give a plug to Pavilion real quick. You lead the Pavilion Atlanta chapter. You're bringing community back, you and Nicole.
Yes, Nicole. It was amazing. I am so lucky to do it with her. And there's so many really cool folks in Atlanta doing really interesting work. And I think, Pavilion's an area where, you get to ask the kinds of questions. There just aren't other communities that you can ask those. And that, their courses are so purpose-built for SaaS and technology, and I just think you can't go on Udemy and go like LinkedIn Learning and go find these courses, right? And you just can't find folks that are doing your same work. And so that's what I love about Pavilion. I've been a member for, I'm not sure, like maybe 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I was right before COVID.
Yeah.
They had like a flash sale at the end of at the end of 2019. I'm not joking. Nicole one day was like, "You can't come in," and then she was like, "Guess what? If you sign up today, like you're in." Like, okay, I guess.
Flash sales, they still work.
Love it. What keeps you up at night or stresses you out from a marketing or business standpoint?
Just making sure I've enabled my people, right? I think, like, as you get into the CMO seat, your job is less about marketing, and it's more about the business, and it's more about...
Yeah, you don't do anything anymore.
Nothing. It's chill.
You just hang out. Hang out. You do podcasts.
Right. That's all I do. So you start to get a little bit more distant from the actual marketing work. And you have to concern yourself with what's happening, in the CTO office, in the CFO office, in the CRO office. Like you need to get super cross-functional and be really thinking about, the market and 3 years from now and now. And so I think for me, like I said earlier, like you bet on people. That means I need to make sure I've given my people all the resources and the context and set the right strategies and communicated the KPIs and like, wait, did I reply to that Slack that they need? Have I talked to that guy in a week? Like, it's just making sure you're like, I have my people. They're like my greatest resource. And one, I want them to all be, happy and successful.
Yeah, you need to inspire them to actually care as well, which
and
is the hardest thing.
It's super hard. It's super easy to lose sight of that. And so you have to make sure you're like making those connection points at the same time you're getting your CEO coming and being like, hey, I need you to write a press release for tomorrow. And like, all the things that are always coming down. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. I just like, have I enabled my people the right way?
Well, I hope you're. I gave you some sleep gummies at my last dinner to
You
everybody.
did. Those
So
things
if
are
you
amazing.
if you are lacking sleep, you've got accoutrement now.
I know.
We'll finish with some fun ones here. What was your very first job?
Man, I think it's so boring. Like a Gen Xer, a babysitter.
Okay.
Dawn.
And did that you babysit to a degree now? I would say. What did you take from that job into your current role? I feel like being a CMO is a little bit of babysitting in a non-condescending way. You're making sure all the children are taken care of.
You are herding cats, right? And I do think that I learned at a young age to be a nurturer, and so I'm very much about like nurturing my people to the next stage in their life, to the next step, and in whatever they want. Some of them are like, hey, I don't really want to keep going climbing on my career. I really want to, focus on my personal stuff and travel or, being a mom, whatever it is. And then some people are like, I want that next promotion. So for me, I think it's really about nurturing that. And it's funny, earlier in my career, I would have said that managing people is the worst part of the job. And it is to me now the best part of my job. And it's the reason I could never go off and be a consultant or solo contractor or anything. I love leading a team, and I get so much satisfaction if my people are happy.
I go back and forth. I miss. It's so funny because everybody I talk to is like, "You're so lucky you don't have a team." To deal with. I don't know if I think it's the worst part. I think it's the hardest part. The more personalities you add into stuff, the harder it is to build a cohesive thing. So no,
it is.
Power to you.
It's a thing you have to work at, I think, and you have to constantly keep yourself in check and not lose sight of it, and make sure that you have all the different personalities. And so, I'm a lifetime learner. I'm always trying to take courses and just what are the things I forgot I knew or I didn't know. And how can I improve? How can I be a better leader tomorrow than I am today? Always something I'm in pursuit of.
That's great.
Yeah.
What would your final meal be?
Want red wine,
Okay.
fried chicken,
Okay.
my daughter, my husband, and maybe
Oh, they're joining.
They're
you for
joining
this final
me.
dinner.
I'm not
I was
eating
like,
them.
I was just checking.
Weird. And maybe banana pudding.
From any spot in particular, or
Any spot in particular, but like mine, maybe my banana.
Oh, you're
pudding.
cooking
I make
fries.
my recipe at least. Maybe somebody else can do
somebody
the work.
else makes your recipe.
Right.
You'll hang out and just drink the
then,
wine.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Fried chicken, good Southern meal. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Perfect. And then my final question: who is somebody who inspires you personally, professionally, or both?
I have lots of people professionally. I could probably call out, previous bosses like this guy Tom Satchwell. It really taught me how to maybe soften my directness, things like that.
That's why we get along. We're both very direct.
But I would say right now, I am so inspired by my 4-year-old daughter and her fierceness. And, she'll answer a question, so, oh, I heard you did such a good day today, drawing your letter K from your name. And she's like, yeah, I'm awesome. And I am like, yes, you are awesome. I'm awesome. Let's go.
That's great. We love the
energy, right? And I'm like, you're right. You drew the letter K and you were awesome. And so, I want to bring more of that in my life. I'm like,
celebrate the small stuff.
Celebrate the small stuff. And also just remember, you're fierce and amazing and special, and you can draw your letters. You didn't even have to do anything that special.
K's are tough.
K's
it's
are
impressive. K's are tough letters. I'm with you.
So you can learn a lot from 4-year-olds.
That's great. No, thank you for joining. I'm curious, who do we give a plug to? If you're in the NetSuite ecosystem, who should be reaching out to you to find out more about Zone & Co?
CFOs and directors of revenue, all the folks that are really concerned about order to cash, procure to pay, invoice to order, all of those fun little terminologies. We're doing some really cool stuff. We just announced an acquisition last week, I want to say. That is really interesting. Folks should check it out. And yeah, we're having a good time over here. We're doing some pretty cool stuff.
Atlanta and need some community, join Pavilion and come to some dinners
yeah,
and stuff.
Come chat. We'll feed you.
Even better. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining. And yeah, I'll just be praying that all the agency stuff goes well.
Yeah, me as well.
Thank you for checking out this episode of You Should Talk To. This show is brought to you by the company with the same name, You Should Talk To, a company that helps marketing leaders find the right agency or freelancer for their situation. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow You Should Talk To wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or visit youshouldtalkto.com for more information.